Hi, I'm Marcel from Pyrodigital, and in this tutorial video we will learn the concept of macros and zipper fires. To understand that, we first have to understand what a queue is. So a queue essentially can be anything that you just trigger with one single fire trigger on the pickle. It can be either a single shot or a whole sequence called a macro. So you trigger it once and it runs for several seconds, but it's a short sequence. It's not a complete automated show, it's a short automated sequence. All right, so we can have a queue. A queue. And a queue can be both a single shot or it can be a macro. And a single shot, of course, it's only one event, can only consist out of one script line. So this here, that's a single shot. And the single shot is one kind of a queue. The other queue type is the macro, and the macro can now consist, of course, of several script lines. So it has a macro is defined as having two or more script lines. So you can have these two kinds, queue, macro, or script line. A special kind of macro, you will come over this word over and over in Pyrodigital. The Pyrodigital work is the so-called zipper fire. So what does a zipper fire mean? Say we have 5 positions. Say we have module address 01, 02, 03, 04, and 05. So those are our modules. Say front position of our fireworks show or at stage front. And we want them to fire all at the same time at one queue, so simultaneous. Say all of them clamp number 0, for example. So we want this to happen simultaneously at the same time. Then this is what you would call a zipper fire. Yeah, so it's like simultaneous queue with several shots at the same time. In the past, on the old FC3, that had been a little different to program a zipper fire and a macro. In the new FCA field controller, that's unified. So actually, a zipper is just a short version of a macro. We will see this on the next slide. And after we understood this concept, let's proceed. Let's proceed making a short script to understand better what makes up a macro. So we define our lines. Say here line number. Then we need our time parameter. Then we need a pre-fire time. And of course we also have to give it an address. Now we can start scripting. Okay, say the first thing that we want to start with is we want to make a macro with that consists of 5 lines. So we take line number 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now to group them together, we have to give them the same time. So that the time parameter is understood in manual fire like what belongs together to one macro. It's not like the show time that you want to have it like in auto fire mode. This is really just grouping up the queues together. So we choose 0, 0, 0, 0, 10, 0, 0. And of course this parameter is to be the same on all these 5 lines. Okay, so we also give those directly addresses. Say we want to shoot here 0, 1, 0, 0, 2, 0, 0, 3, 0, 0, 4, 0, and 0, 5, 0. Now let's say we want to, the first line of course shall be shot when we directly press fire, so at the beginning of the macro. This is also actually a condition. If you want to define a macro, you have to give them the same time, and the very first line has to have pre-fire time 0. So of course the first event happens when you press your trigger. Let's say the second line shall be 30 pre-fire time. This would mean that this event happens at 3 seconds. The pre-fire time is defined in tenths of a second. So if we want this line to be executed at 3 seconds, it's 0. Say we want the next line to be executed as 0 as well. And then this line shall be executed at 4 seconds, and the last one at 4.2 seconds. That would be 42 tenths of a second. So this here would be our first macro. Let's say we want to define a second macro with 2 lines, 5 and 6 line number, and we have to give this now a new time. So say we choose 11 seconds. Okay. And of course the first line has to be at 0, and say we want the second line to be executed 1 second later, so we would give it a pre-fire time of 10. And let's say we shoot here 0, 1, 1 and 0, 2, 1. Let's have some single shots now. Say we make 3 of them, so 7, 8, 9. And of course those have to get now different times. So let's make this 12 seconds, 13 seconds, and 14 seconds. And we don't actually care about the pre-fire time because in single shots they don't mean anything. And last we need then to give those here addresses, so we just proceed with 0, 3, 1, 0, 4, 1, 0, 5, 1. And then let's script one final queue. Let's say a zipper fire. So a zipper fire of 3 lines. So we give this the new time. Group them together, of course, to the same time. So 15 seconds in this case. So, and we want them to be executed at the same time when we press the trigger. So that would be all at pre-fire time 0. So let me point this out. In the old field controller FC3, it was a condition that a macro could not start with a zipper fire. So you could either have a zipper fire and that was it, or you could script a macro and only the first line could be executed on 0. So that always forced you to kind of make a workaround with a empty queue at the beginning and then have zipper fires if you wanted to have it directly at the pressing. We unified this and solved this issue for the new field controller, and you can now also start with a macro. That's not a problem. So say this would be 0, 1, 2, 0, 2, 2, 0, 3, 2. So this would be a classical zipper fire. And let's say we now would like to make a second zipper fire within this macro. Then we just add 2 more lines. Of course, this also has to be at 15 seconds. And we want this one to be executed at 1 second later. So we give it preferred time of 10. And just take the 042 and 045. So if we look at this once more, let's look at the timeline. This here would be in time executed directly at the start, 0.3 seconds, 0.0 seconds, 0.0 seconds, 3.0 seconds, this one at the same time as well. This one would be shut at 4 seconds, and this one at 4.2 seconds. Here the timeline of this macro would be 0.0 seconds and 1 second. This is a single shot that will be shot directly, single shot, single shot. And this here would be executed in time at 0.0 seconds, also at 0.0 seconds. And this here would be at 1 second. And this one would be at 1 second as well. So we call this here a macro. This here is a macro. That's a single shot, and that's a macro again. So macro, macro, single, 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 and macro, where we would call this here like a zipper. This is a zipper fire, and that's also a small zipper fire. Okay, thank you very much for the attention. In the next video, we will have a more practical view on this, and we script this to the field controller and also see how this is then really shot in the manual fire mode. Thanks for the attention, and see you soon.